Hi, it's Dwyer. It's Wednesday, March the 2nd, 2022. You know, it's very hard, and I mean extremely hard, to imagine a sport that's more poorly governed than boxing. Right? You know, it's just astonishing how this sport over time is going to continue to go below your worst expectations. Well, now we get one of the most ridiculous ideas I have ever heard. And of course, they're trying to sell it to you, the public. Apparently, the WBC, the WBO, and the IBF are now refusing to certify title fights involving Russian or Belarusian fighters. Folks, this is absolutely absurd. You hope there's someone in charge who can walk into the office of whatever jackass made this decision to tell that jackass, look, you either retract this within the next 40 minutes or you're fired. First, let's be clear on boxing. Boxing is a sport where heavyweight champion Jack Johnson was wanted by police, was supposed to turn himself in. He fled the United States, goes to Europe. Guess what, folks? He continued to be the heavyweight champion. Everyone knew he was wanted by authorities in the United States. He continued to have fights. That's the sport this is. Right? This is the sport where everyone knew in the 30s that Adolf Hitler was terrible, was awful, had ideas about racial superiority, was doing the most atrocious things possible. Everyone knew it. But yet Max Schmeling fought Joe Louis for the heavyweight title. So now, I'm supposed to believe that I should consider a fighter with a WBC or WBO or IBF title to be a world champion, knowing that Russian and Belarusian fighters were not allowed to fight for the titles because of idiotic things their government has done. Can't we separate the fighters from their governments? Is there anyone watching this video who believes that Dmitry Bivol had a say in whether Russia invaded the Ukraine? Folks, this is the height of ridiculousness. Let's not penalize the fighters for their terrible governments. Dmitry Bivol is not Vladimir Putin. Absent some evidence that Dmitry Bivol actually was involved in the decision-making to invade the Ukraine, I don't see how you exclude him from competing or keeping his title. You know, let me also say too, it's ridiculous, just downright foolish, to ignore the fact that there are a lot of crazy things happening in the world. I'm telling you, at least twice a month, and I mean at least twice a month, when I'm going through the news, I come across some ridiculous story where some errant government someplace is doing the craziest things imaginable. Right? I can tell you there was an American who was held in North Korea. The circumstances are dodgy. Then, of course, the North Koreans released the American to American custody, and of course, that individual was brain dead. I can tell you, I woke up one morning, and to my shock, years ago, I heard that the United States had invaded Grenada. Trust me, to this day, I'm under no delusion that Grenada was not threatening to invade the United States. But let me break this story down more concretely. You know, years ago, there was a politician, I believe his name was Aquino, and he had a support group in the Philippines. And he returned to the Philippines, right? He was returning to challenge the government. And government gunmen cut him down at the airport. Now think about how stupid this reasoning is here. They would want you to accept the exclusion of Manny Pacquiao. They would want you to accept the limitations on his career. Right? Boxing, using this logic, would have made him a second-class citizen. You can fight, but we're not going to recognize you as the champion. Why? Because the Filipino government did something stupid. I'm just telling you, if you go by that standard, you can cross off 25% of all fighters. What the WBC, WBO, and IBF also don't realize is they're diminishing the value of their world title. We want world champions. You want to look at the guy with the belt and you want to say, hey, you know, this guy earned it. He fought the people he had to fight to get this belt. You don't want there to be some asterisk that says, of course, he didn't have to fight Russian or Belarusian fighters. So now, this ridiculous ruling is threatening to gut Saul Alvarez's mission, and it seems to be his career mission, to dominate the sport of boxing. Right? He's taking all of us fans along for the ride. So, of course, the next stop for the Canelo train is to take on light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol, a guy who I personally feel is the best in the division. Now, how does it get better than this? A guy who arguably is the best fighter in the sport pound for pound, taking on the best light heavyweight for the light heavyweight title. It's only in boxing that they could muck that up. Now we're hearing that these two guys, Bivol is unbeaten as I make this video, won't be allowed, think about that, to fight for the title. Folks, that thinking's crazy. It doesn't belong in this sport. Let's leave politics out of boxing. Right? You have an Army deserter, Sugar Ray Robinson, who arguably is the best boxer this sport has had. Right? Let's not go down a road where we're looking at guys and we're looking at political situations and we're making decisions based on a boxer's citizenship, on whether they should have an opportunity to fight for the title. So, you know, if I had a red cup, I'd wave it right now. Let's just say shame on the WBC, WBO, and IBF. You're not doing the sport any favors. This is clear-cut discrimination. In other words, they can stop a boxer on the way into the ring. They say, hey man, where are you from? Right? If the guy says Serbia, oh, he's okay to fight. If the guy says Russia, no, he's not. Even though he had no role in any idiotic decision that the Russian government has made. This doesn't belong in boxing. This is the sport of Jack Johnson. Let's stop kidding ourselves, right? It's just ridiculous. Folks, you've had heavyweight champions who were convicted felons. Now suddenly, the sport wants you to believe that it's pristine, to the point where it can forbid Russian and Belarusian fighters who might not even be involved in politics from fighting for titles. Let's stop kidding ourselves. This is an outrage. I hope people talk about it. I hope the WBC, WBO, and IBF understand that if they don't retract this, I'll talk about fights, but I'm certainly not going to be mentioning any of these Yahoo sanctioning bodies. Right? How can I take the WBC seriously when they're not giving Russian and Belarusian fighters an opportunity to fight for titles? This does not work for me. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Thanks for stopping by.